Hello, peoples of the internet. Today I will be attempting to build a 1980s muscle car in an automation. This is a Mazda MX-5 body. Probably won't be using this. Let's look at some more. And I found a body. It's a model year 1980, so it's not too far off 1985. It is an 80s body at least. We're not using something from the 70s, so it is relevant. And I believe this is from a Volkswagen Scirocco or something of that kind, some kind of Volkswagen Audi group vehicle. And I think it can suit my needs. You'll see here I'm bringing it into a bit more of a saloon. I've chosen a different body style and I'm extending certain bits out of it. We can bring the front back, and this is going to be powered by either a V8 or a V6. I'm not certain yet. Maybe even an inline 6, but it'll be 6 or 8 cylinders, that's for sure. And there we go. It's our start. It's not the most elegant car in the world, but then are any of the 1980s muscle cars the most elegant cars in the world? I mean, they can look good, but they're not necessarily the epitome of design. So this should do the job. I think we'll just bring the windscreen back a little. So we should have something of the kind that we need. The rear window is a right kind of angle. An old American car of this era would have a very straight rear window, probably because they could easily make an estate out of it and you could just get great rear visibility from it. Now here we have the design. If we zoom in on it, we'll see it's pretty ugly on the front, but it works. American cars of this era were barely works of art, so I think I can get away with it. We've got a plastic door handle on the side, and the rear I'm actually a lot prouder of than the front. It's simple, yet it works. And again, as is becoming a theme, I forget the exhausts. You'll see we've got a unitary corrosion resistant construction because I want this thing to last and I want it to be a fairly solid vehicle. It's a front longitudinal layout, as always with a muscle car it should be front longitudinal, and we've got McPherson strut front and solid axle coil rear, as well as corrosion resistant steel. I'm trying to keep things fairly cheap, fairly simple here, because muscle cars are supposed to be cheap. Now the corrosion resistant steel is the one thing I've really spent a bit extra money on, like the corrosion resistance. I'm probably not going to spend much money other than that on fancy bits because I want it to last. I want it to be a solid, reliable car, but I don't want to spend loads of money on making it overcomplicated. And here we have the engine, which I have nicknamed Derek Beast because it's a monster, really. 7.5 litres of torque mainly, 522 newton meters of torque. It doesn't actually make that much power. It's decent enough for the day, but for the size of the engine that's crazy because I've set the wed line so low and I've set the cam profile so low because I want to make its power really low so it still has decent reliability. It has 57.1 at the moment. I tried making the engine smaller and it didn't help, oddly. I have got an aluminium head on this as well as a cast iron block and direct acting overhead cams, and we have single point electronic fuel injection. I tried a carburetor but it just couldn't get the same power. It wasn't a different variant of the engine, but I decided since single point fuel injection was cheap enough I would use that. I wouldn't stretch myself to mechanical or multi-point though, far too expensive for my taste. And it wed lines at 4800 RPM, I might have said that already. The exhaust is actually tiny. It is a dual exhaust setup, which gives me 1 torque more. Obviously what you want in an engine that's this much of a torque monster. So I'll let it run so you can hear it. Now, on to the other elements of the car. You'll see, interestingly, with the transmission, the power doesn't drop off. It just kind of lowers a little. It doesn't drop off so significantly, though. It just trails off, that's what I'm looking for. And we've got 100 on the pony market, which I'm quite happy with. It's apparently not a very affordable car, but, you know, it's reasonably competitive, which I'm happy with. We have 5 gear ratios. I was going with 4, but then the market seemed to like 5, and basically, if I'm to make any profit on this thing, I need to do exactly as they're telling me to do. Now, the limited slip differential we've got is a vicious because it's cheap. We could change it, although I don't believe it has any benefit. It does now, apparently. The market loves an open differential. The strange thing about the market is they're always changing their minds, so what's good one moment is suddenly not so good. That has slowed our car down quite a bit though, so I'm sticking with the vicious, because I just like the speed, and I like how little wheel spin there is, 8.2%, but that's with over 500 torques. Madness, really. We have got medium compound road. Again, that was a market thing, but they change their mind all the time. You never know precisely what they want. Maybe they'll want semi-slicks suddenly. No, medium's good. And they did want larger wheels, but it meant losing my 235 tyres, and I do not trust the power of any less than 235. They also wanted 235 on the front. I had it staggered so it was 215mm, but maybe they don't like that for tradition reasons or something. You'll see we have got the wheel arches full. I flared them and everything, and I still couldn't fit more than 235 tyres on there, which is strange to say the least, but then maybe not so strange. After all, if it is a Volkswagen Scirocco body, it's not exactly a massive American body. Still, we have decent enough tyres. I adjusted the wheels. Maybe we want steel now. No. They seem to be holding their mind pretty well, actually. I adjusted the brakes for the market. Surprisingly, I ended up with 3 piston vented discs on the front and 1 piston vented discs on the rear. I wanted to go with solid discs and then drums because it would be simpler and cheaper, but they apparently don't like that. Which is, I guess, realistic, but brakes cost money, so if we go back, you'll see 326, not good. But we have got a fully clad under tray. I dared to mess with it and I drove the market mad, so I'm not going to touch that again. I managed to get a few points from the cooling airflow and brake airflow by basically blocking off half the vents. Basically blocking off the grille because it lets far too much air into the car. I can't really think of a way around it, honestly. It only needs a tiny amount of cooling in most of the cars I build. Surprisingly with this, the engine makes huge amounts of torque and a decent amount of power, and it doesn't require that much cooling, despite being a massive engine. Now, we seem to want a fairly basic car. Speaking of which, no, not changing my mind. And it's got 2 seats and no entertainment. In many ways like a Mustang Cobra. Only this doesn't have leaf springs, it has live coil as opposed to live leaf. Slightly more advanced, and I decided it might be a little more comfortable, so it was worth it. They wanted advanced 80's safety, I was going to leave it on standard. And we've got comfort suspension. Oddly, they are actually happy with comfort suspension. Maybe it's my kind of market, I don't know, but normally they want rock hard sports suspension or something, but it didn't make much difference. Race and standard, normal, sorry, had the same points on the market. So I just left it on comfort because that's what I would choose. We have a fairly light vehicle here, actually. Again, probably thanks to being based on a Scirocco body, it weighs 1269.7 kilos. There is naturally a disadvantage, though, of running a massively heavy engine here. 60.1% frontal weight. There's been worse. The Audi S4 from a few years ago, the V8, and that had 62 front or something, but then that had all-wheel drive, so we're slightly hopeless for weight balance. I'll just have to hope it kind of walks back onto the soft rear suspension and hope everything's good. Anyway, we do need to name our car and then take it around the test track, so I think I'm going to call this Trolling Muscle. There's a good reason I'm calling it Trolling Muscle, because if we look at it, it kind of looks like a troll, to me at least. It's ugly. I would say big, but it's not. And it gets in the way. Anyway, we do have the engine. And I'm sorry, I've been so stupid here. Sometimes I can't believe myself. We've not got it in the channel colours. And we've not styled it. Yeah, let's go with this retro head. We have a channel colour carburettor. That's something. And a channel colour head. Silver and blue, as it has to be. Yeah, sometimes I bewilder myself with my foolishness. And we can call the trim, I would say Cobra, but then that's just completely whipping off Ford. Just thinking. Takes me a while to think. Yes, technology for street racing. Basically, a whip-off of SRT, street racing technology. I've called it technology for street racing. Ah, my ideas. Anyway, we do have to take it around the airfield track and see how it does. Okay, so we've set a 1 minute 29.07 time, which puts it just below a Porsche 997 Carrera S. It's in line with a Mercedes-Benz CL65 AMG, a Lamborghini Murcielago on a partly damp track, and an Alpina Z8 Roadster. It's just beaten a BMW M5 F10, but that was on a very wet time, so it's not really fair to compare it. Rear-wheel drive and the wet don't generally go well together. It's also beaten a Ford Focus Mark II, and I'll take that as a victory because, honestly, a 300 horsepower modern Ford Focus is pretty decent for this to be. I can't remember precisely how much power it's got, but if we look at the engine, we'll see. Yeah, I said if we look at the engine, we'll see that it's got 235 horsepower, a fair amount below the 300 of the Focus. So, I don't know, it's impressive for the time, I guess we could say. Remember 1985? It's not bad. Although, I could have probably built something much quicker. I'm happy with this as a result. You know, it's not too offensive. So, I'm going to leave it at this. And also mention the weight is pretty good. Under 1,300 kilos. But anyway, until next time, goodbye until another day. And a quick shot of the markets for whom it may concern.